that he would need to learn to be able to survive something that Couture may do.
That's what I'm thinking. Let him go crazy. Let him be an
Yeah,
animal.
let him do what he does. Let him be nuts. Let him get animalistic on him. And then if Couture counters it, just teach him the basic things you need to do to sprawl and get out of that and get to back where you can potentially do your best. I don't think you should be teaching James Toney the intricacies in any form. Randy Couture, do you think he's going to be baited into fighting?
Nah, Couture's a straight fighter. He's not going to get baited and stuff. He could get caught with something. But, my only worry here is that maybe all the rules may have not been explained to James Toney correctly.
Now, and the problem with this is that you're going to get a lot of people saying this is, MMA versus boxing. The winner is going to be better. But the thing is, you got a 41-year-old dude who hasn't been relevant in boxing in at least a few years, and Randy Couture, who's pretty old, who's a little bit past his prime, and I don't think represents the sport right now. If you took...
He doesn't. James Toney fought his last fight September 9th against Matt Greer.
Yeah.
And he knocked him out in the second round. He looked all right, but he had taken a year off previously.
And
we're talking about a while here. He hasn't. Essentially, he's not trained.
So it is a circus.
It is a circus.
But it's going to be a circus that we're going to all buy the ticket to because we want to see the carnies and we want to have fun. So when it comes down to it,
I want to go to the runway and play the games.
Exactly. When it comes down to it, you just want to see something that's going to be entertaining. And this fight is going to be as entertaining as anything you're going to see this year, and I can't wait for it.
Tune in August 28th. Pay your $59.95, whatever you got to pay for it. Tune in and watch and see how much I know.
Well, not too much this week other than what we've already talked about. A quick news story, though. We do have Bob Arum, the owner of Top Rank Promotions, who is Manny Pacquiao and Antonio Margarito's promoter. He's going to meet with Jerry Jones this weekend in Dallas Cowboys Stadium. Jerry Jones looks like he wants the Pacquiao-Margarito fight. A couple of roadblocks. You still got Margarito's licensing issues, but I think that's a great spot. We were at the Manny Pacquiao-Joshua Clottey fight back in March.
Yes, we did.
That was a great atmosphere, great event. I think that the fans really enjoyed that.
Was electric. I got to be honest with you. That was one of the greatest boxing matches, basically because the crowd was electric. The feel was electric.
Yep.
It didn't matter that Josh Clottey didn't bring 2 or 3 fans.
Exactly.
Manny Pacquiao stuffed 50,000 people into the Dallas Cowboys Stadium.
And what a stadium.
What a stadium it is. And I'm so excited over the fact that Manny Pacquiao fighting Margarito in Dallas Stadium. What are the fans going to be like? You're bringing in the Mexican fans.
Right, yeah.
You're bringing in the American fans. Mm-hmm. You're bringing in everyone. It's going to be a lot more than 50,000. It's just, you're going to black out if you walk.
It's going to be a great event, and I think that Jerry Jones knows that he's really tired. He said in the Pacquiao fight that he knows that a lot of the Mexican-American fans that live in Texas are big fight fans, as that is such a huge part of the Mexican culture. And I love that aspect. I know we had a lot of fun down there talking to a lot of those people, and it was just a great event. I think that Jerry Jones knows that he'll be successful. Antonio Margarito, despite all of the other allegations that we will get to in many future shows, I know. But the fans still love him, and him and Pacquiao are both warriors, and it's going to be such a great event. I don't know where it lands. There's still talks of Abu Dhabi having the fight. There are talks Monterrey, Mexico. There are talks Atlantic City, maybe Vegas.
I got to be honest, Hans. If it happens anywhere other than Dallas right now, just because the idea that it was mentioned, my heart's going to be broken. I want to see the fight. Don't get me wrong. I'll watch it either way. But if it doesn't happen in Dallas, my heart's going to be broken because I want to see it.
Yeah, I mean, it's a great place to have a fight. I'm excited to see even like UFC events and in Texas. Dana White was at that. He was at that fight. Yeah,
he was, and he said a couple of words. Maybe
he's a big Pacquiao guy.
Yeah, he's leading to the idea of maybe having a UFC fight.
I mean, I remember flying in, down to Texas to DFW Airport, and you see Cowboy Stadium. It just looks like an alien ship landed in the middle of Texas.
It's Independence Day all over again.
Yeah, it's ridiculous. It's ridiculous. But so that fight could potentially land there. Speaking of big fights, one last thing with mixed martial arts that we want to get to is, now that we've talked about Silva a little bit.
Let's talk about it.
I mean, we've talked about Montreal, Canada, right across the border from where we are. Silva St. Pierre, what is it?
Well, Dana White this past week in an interview, he was questioned about the Anderson Silva, George St. Pierre, potentially meeting. People have been talking about it for a few years now, And
I love St. Pierre in that fight, by the way.
I like him too, but there's a couple of things here. You've got Anderson Silva. Vitor Belfort still wants Silva bad. You can get that fight next. Who knows? Before a rematch with Chael Sonnen, I don't know. I mean, that fight was so close. George St. Pierre, I mean, he's got to get through technically. I mean, unless they pull a lot of strings. Let's face it. Look at Brock Lesnar. A lot of strings have been pulled. He's only had 4 fights and he's the champ. So who knows? I mean, that's one problem I have with UFC. Other than that, I love it. That and the Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu. But anyway, George St. Pierre, he's got to get through Josh Koscheck, technically. He's got to get through the newly signed Jake Shields, who's just come up from Strikeforce.
Love Jake Shields. Good fighter.
Yeah,
Good fighter.
Maybe even John Fish after his impressive win this past Saturday over Thiago Alves. So, there are guys. You can't just make this fight happen right now. If you make this fight happen, you're going to screw a lot of dudes out of their shot to fight people who they're training to fight. Not to mention, he fights at 170. Anderson Silva, 185. He's fought as high as 85. He could probably contend at 205. He's one of those guys, he walks around at a different weight than what he fights at, He could probably gain some weight. He could still compete at 205. George St. Pierre at 170, he's comfortable. I don't know where
think
that
the
goes.
style is good for St. Pierre. If you see what Chael Sonnen did with Silva, I think if St. Pierre can put on the weight and he can do it properly and he can still do what he does best, holding that weight, I think stylistically he matches up very well with Silva.
I don't think there's another guy who could take Silva down as easily and as effortlessly as George St. Pierre.
Right.
Other than what we saw Chael Sonnen do.
That said, though, I would love to see St. Pierre and Jake Shields. I mean, put that fight at the Bell Center with 25,000 screaming fans. Come on.
In any event, that fight, that's a miracle fight. That's it's not going to happen for a while, if it even happens. I think a lot of things gotta fall into place.
Right.
I'd like to see it. I'd like to think that someday it will happen. Who knows? I have no idea. Anyway, that's enough with the UFC. Hans, what the hell is going on? Don King and Mayweather. Mayweather's on vacation. Don King still has a haircut. What's going on here? I didn't even know Don King was still alive.
We'll take a quick break for about 2 seconds here, and we'll get into this. Don King, Floyd Mayweather. Yeah, you're not hearing things. Don King, Floyd Mayweather. We'll get right to it.
We'll be right back.
The Bruiser! The Bruiser!
So anyway, man, what is going on here? Don King, Floyd Mayweather.
Yeah, Floyd Mayweather, he was Don King's guest of honor at the Devon Alexander fight this past weekend.
Are we saying this is what it takes to make the Pacquiao Mayweather fight? Obviously this is precluding to something going on here. Why would he be signing with Don King?
Who knows what it takes?
Talk about a freak show between James Toney and Randy Couture. Now we're talking about Don King and May. Come on, man, what's going on here?
Yeah, Don King, a lot of to the mainstream fan, hasn't been really that viable into boxing since the mid '90s. Early 2000s, but he has had a stable of fighters. He's had some good fighters. He's the promoter of guys such as Nikolai Valuev, who is the Russian giant from St. Petersburg, Russia.
Yes,
massive. He promoted him. He's got Devon Alexander. He's got some good fighters in his roster, and he's still trying to make a name for himself with whatever he has left. He's got Joseph Abeko. He had Nate Campbell. Don King is still very viable, and let's face it, he's got a lot of old money in that promotion.
Yeah, he's probably made a million contacts. He's also he's burned 1 trillion bridges.
Yeah, but it's still you say Don King. What do you think of? You see a fight happens. You know something's going to happen. So I think that one of the things that was a stumbling block between the Mayweather-Pacquiao was a side with Golden Boy Promotions, which Mayweather claims he's not involved with, but everybody knows that that's who Mayweather Promotions, isn't even a sanctioned promotion company. Mayweather's been working with those guys, Richard Schaefer and all those dudes, and Oscar, and they're a good company. They're doing what they can do, and they have a lot of clout behind them. They got their